Factory Butte, one of the greatest dirt bike riding areas on Earth. For decades, dirt bikers and ATVers explored this area of great dirt without hindrance, reveling in the desolate beauty. A few years ago, all that changed when a rare cactus was discovered on one section of the butte. Today, thousands of acres are closed to recreation for the protection of the species. Stories like this are rare for the most part, but their impact can be enormous, not only for off-road lovers, but entire communities. Now, another issue potentially looms on the horizon, and it could be more far-reaching than what happened to Factory Butte.
Sage grouse is a historic bird of the West that's actually can be viewed from either an ATV or via foot, and it's a great opportunity for people to get out in the springtime to see the males go through their leks.
The sage grouse leks are open areas where, in the early spring, the birds come to mate. Males perform a kind of dance to attract the females in the dark hours of the morning. Recently, habitat losses have contributed to declines in population among the grouse, putting them on the verge of classification as a threatened species.
What makes it difficult for them is because they're so highly adapted to sagebrush, they're not very well adapted to changes to that. If we have less habitat, it makes it easier for the predators on the landscape to locate sage grouse for predation events. The more area we have available to sage grouse, the more options they have.
If listed as threatened, trails across Utah could be shut down and the entire recreation and industrial landscape altered. The BLM and Forest Service are well aware of the impact the Endangered Species Act could have in this case and are currently working to make sure the sage grouse is never in need of any official designation.
We're looking at basically what do we need to do to help conserve sage grouse. And what do we need to do related to their habitats, which are typically sagebrush, and what can we do in the way of our kinds of activities, particularly related to the types of things that have been identified as being potentially harmful to sage grouse.
For example, oil and gas development, livestock grazing, fire response, vegetation treatments, things of that nature. All the potential land uses that could affect sage grouse or its habitat.
The BLM has completed part of the planning process along with the state, and both are finalizing initiatives to help bolster sage grouse populations. If the designation is avoided, many OHV and cycling enthusiasts will breathe a sigh of relief as their favorite trails will continue to be open and enjoyed. But if the sage grouse is listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act, the face of recreation in Utah will be altered, possibly forever. Most hope a balance can be found between recreation and environmental stability so that the sage grouse issue won't become another Factory Butte controversy.
We don't want to end recreation, we don't want to end energy use or any of that, but what's the right mix to be able to do that and still help conserve the species?
So it's not an either or, it's a working together to find the common ground, and often that may mean some type of compromise.
Coming from the off-highway vehicle program, if people stay on the designated routes, those birds are not going to be affected as long as they stay on the designated routes. I mean, our designated routes for ATV use have been here for at least 100 years and maybe a little bit more than that. And so we know that if people stay on the designated trails and routes, there's not going to be an issue between OHV conflict or sage grouse conflict.
From the trailhead, I'm Don Dunwell.